Well, thanks for having me. Thanks Tyler for inviting me as well. I guess I kind of want to start off a little bit. You know, the bio was good, but just a little bit about me and what real estate did for me, right? So I see a couple familiar faces in here. Real estate actually changed my life. Before I knew what real estate was, I was about, $90,000 in debt. I was homeless at that time, and I had lost everything. So real estate is it's more of a career for me. It's a passion for me, but it's also I also look at real estate like a lifeline. So, I don't know what it does for you guys, but when I got invited to the opportunity to speak, I was honored. But real estate has changed my life. So I like to share that in front of everybody that I speak to let them know that it's not just about making money. It's about making a difference in other people's lives, and for me, my life as well. So that's my intro to real estate.
Yes, Tyler Lusk, by the way, and real estate really changed my life as well. I went to college, played football, had guys that go off to the NFL. I did a couple professional football kind of stuff when I was in movies and things like that. And then when I came back, I was selling lady shoes at Dillard's. I was like, okay, 6'2", 245 pounds at the time. I'm sitting here selling lady shoes. I made a good career out of it. I was great with sales and things like that, but it's like, this can't be what my life has ended up being. And it's just like, I was looking for another way out and just, a way to gain my freedom back. And wholesaling is a way that we really got in because you don't need a real estate license. And you also, it doesn't take a lot of money. You don't have to use your own credit. You just have to be smart and do things the right way, which is what we're going to get into and talking about ethics on how to do this strategy the right way.
All right, so I guess we'll just start off what wholesaling is. I'll cover this first little bubble. As Tyler said, real estate is an exit strategy typically used by individuals who put distressed properties under contract and then assign that property to another investor, right? So the key word being assign, right? So the thing is, selling and assigning is two different things. When you sell a property legally, by the real estate commission, you have to have a real estate license to sell property, but you can assign a contract for a fee. So essentially that's how we get paid as wholesalers, or, any contract is actually assignable. People assign their rights to property, people assign their rights to, ownership in a business. You can assign a mortgage, but when you attach a fee to it, that's where the revenue drives in on the what an assignment fee is. So that's essentially what wholesaling is. You get it at a lower price. The property has the potential to be worth more. You sell that or assign that to an end buyer for a fee, and you get paid.
Absolutely, he hit it right on the head. So the thing is, you just got to be careful about how you market your deals and things like that. You don't want to say I have a house for sale, just like he said. You can get in legal trouble for that. You have an assignment, you have a piece of paper, a contract that you're willing to sell your position in to someone else. So you're not necessarily selling the property, selling your position to purchase the property to someone else.
So now, I'm gonna be honest with you guys. It's a lot of flack going around about robocalls and text messages, and people are really tired of cold callers. I'm gonna be honest with you. I can count on 50 hands how many times I've gotten cussed out by people, right? Because they just get tired of it, which is understandable, right? But the thing is about wholesaling is that a lot of people don't understand is that the number one thing to remember is we are problem solvers. So, if it's 50 people in a room, nobody has to say anything, but I can bet that there's somebody in here that has a problem that needs to be solved, right? And that property that they have could alleviate their problem. So if I don't call all 50 of you guys, I'm not gonna find that one person who actually needs my help. So that's essentially what we're doing. So you guys take it easy on some of the investors, newbies. They may not be doing it the right way, but at the same time, they are looking for that individual who needs that help. And that's what we got to understand, that the number one goal for anybody that's looking to wholesale is you have to identify a problem, right? So Tyler, give us some problems that you think that we can solve on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, so like Eric mentioned, that I know everyone's situation is different. Just like how Eric said he came into the real estate industry, he was in debt. A lot of times we are not as educated as we should be about how we can position ourselves to win in all situations. So let's take real estate, for example. If there's someone who's behind in taxes or something like that, you can do things called a subject to, which is a little another exit strategy. It's just different ways to where you can catch yourself up to where you don't have to lose your property and give it back away after you've been paying on it for years. You know, whoever, it's been passed down, and then all of a sudden they're behind in taxes $2,000 and no one has it. And then all of a sudden, oh, my granny has to give away her house. And that's not necessarily true, and that's where we come in and we educate them on how we can actually save that house and actually, save their credit and also put some money in their pocket and, of course, put some money in ours for our time.
Right. So by a show of hands, how many people in this room have lost someone? As far as just somebody's passed away, they lost an aunt, a mother, father, whatever. Everybody, right? Everybody's lost someone. Well, essentially, that person had to have somewhere to live, right? So if I live in Nashville, but I lost an aunt who lives in Idaho, I'm not planning on going to Idaho. So my aunt's house, at that point, I inherited it, so I can either do one or two things. I can take over that property and the responsibility of the property, which is I can rent it out, I can try to fix it up myself or resell it, or I can just liquidate the property. Because at this point, their property is causing me issues. I need to get rid of it. And that's another aspect of what we can do to solve a problem for a person who has lost someone. They don't really want to deal with that person. Deal with their property. They just lost a person, and we can be of service to that as well. So there's a lot of different problems that you can solve with wholesaling. So the first thing that we'll talk about is ethics, right? So the goal is to solve problems and turn those solutions into a business model, and that's essentially what wholesaling is. All right, so Tyler, I'll let you lead off with.
All right, so when we talk about prospecting, we really don't, at our level, we really don't just blast and market to everyone. We try to make sure we only target those who are in a situation where they could possibly need our help. And then we cast out our umbrella to say, hey, we're here, do you need our help? Those situations could be, like I mentioned earlier, tax delinquent. Imagine having a property for 30 years, it's free and clear, and then someone passed away and the taxes are behind, and you've inherited the property and never knew that the taxes was behind. So what, you're just gonna let them take the property? No, right? It would be helpful if someone's like, hey, you don't have to let them take your property. This is what you can do. These are the steps that you can follow. So you got tax delinquent properties. You got probates, which is when someone's passed away. That's the legal term. It's called a probate. It has to go through probate to where it gets inherited and you can actually make the sale on the property. Divorce. Just basically situations to where you don't have time to wait 30 days or put your house on the market, or you don't have the funds to actually fix your house up and make it look just like marvelous, right? Like up to market standards. So you just really want just a quick cash because you don't have the money to put in yourself. So that's when we come in and help you with those situations. I'm sure Eric can relate to that as well. Definitely.
Another aspect of being ethical when dealing with business in real estate specifically, we've all seen, the bad guy wholesaler or the bad guy real estate investor or the bad guy developer. They come up with a little old lady, right? She has a house, and that person knows that she doesn't really know what she's doing, right? So they didn't ask to speak with a son. They didn't ask to speak with somebody competent enough. They said, hey, I can give you $50,000 for the house, knowing that she wasn't really knowledgeable enough to make that decision. That's when you're moving unethically and negotiating, right? You want to make sure that you're negotiating with a person who understands. And I always tell my team that we never want to set a false expectation. So essentially, I would say something along those lines like, hey, look, we don't buy everything that we look at. We are an investment company, so we're looking to buy this property to improve it, right, for its as-is value. Meaning that I'm disclosing, because I'm a licensed real estate agent, so I understand that I have to disclose that what I'm about to do with this property. And it's your choice to allow me to buy it at its as-is condition, right? We don't want to negotiate with a person and try to tell them, hey, this property is worth this. It's what I can pay for it, for what I'm trying to do. So you want to make sure that when you negotiate with people, you're moving ethically and you're not trying to get over on individuals, because, nobody needs to be, that's just bad karma anyway. Right.
Yes, and providing data. So just like Eric said, you want to present comps to say, hey, Mr. Seller, Mrs. Seller, this is what your house could sell for if you were to fix it up. If you were to add the new updates that are going on in the market, this is what it looks like. These are the numbers. This is how much it's typically going to cost around this price range. Now, can you afford to do that? Can you afford to take on those risks? Or would you rather get out of the situation right now, something where you just, want a quick sale? So that's how we provide the data.
Right, right. And then another big one for me and the people that I work with is you want to identify the problem. You don't want to exploit the problem, right? You don't want to make a person feel bad for what they're going through. It's like you just got a divorce, you and your wife, you got enough stress on you already. It's like I don't want to be worse of a guy than I already am calling you about a divorce. You know what I'm saying? So the thing is, you have to just identify that problem and figure out, okay, what is my role in the situation? I'm not the psychiatrist. I'm not your counselor. I'm not the divorce attorney. I'm here to, alleviate the problem, which is you guys are battling over this property, and maybe I can help you liquidate it, and that can take one less worry out for you. So you don't want to explore the problem. You just want to identify so you can solve it.
Yes, and to piggyback off of that, you guys are, well, I don't know if you know, I don't know. I've always heard it's always cheaper to keep her. So I guess divorces are pretty expensive. So you may not have the money to put in for the rehab. So, who knows? But it just depends. It's all about what your situation is. How can we help? Can we help? Can we work together? If not, we'll part as friends.
Right. And just the last one is just talk to people and people. You don't have to try to be, this hotshot investor. Like, people don't really respond to that. You know what I'm saying? They don't really care that you are doing all of these amazing things in real estate. They really just want to know, can I have a conversation with you? Don't try to throw babble at me because oh, well, your property's worth this, and if I do this, I can do this, and blah, all that. You're right. You don't have to do that. Just have a conversation. Let them know what you're trying to do, and if they don't want to work with you, we can part ways as friends. So just talk to people, and people is a slogan that I love to use. This makes it simple.
Yes, I'm always Tyler from down the street. I'm never Tyler for Big Buyers LLC $1 million, and it puts their guards down, because if you come off as this big time investor, it's like, hold on, you might try to put something over my head, too much, or something like that. You just always want to let them know that you're human as well. So, and that's another thing. There's a million scripts out there. I just tell you guys, if you're on the phone or you're really interested in a property, just let them know you're really interested. There's no script out there in the world that can actually do that for you. They would rather know the true you instead of letting you read someone else's words.
Yeah. All right, so the meat and the potatoes. Tyler, I'm gonna let you tackle this.
Yeah. So who's out here interested in knowing how to find the deals? That's it? Okay. No one else. Everybody else is already rich. Okay, gotcha. Or you already got one of us on your list to send you deals, right? Yeah. Okay, cool. So we got cold calling. Cold calling, like you guys already know, every business in the world pretty much does it. People are calling you on the phone, whether it's them or a virtual assistant from the Philippines that you don't even understand what they're saying, right? You just automatically hang up the phone. That's probably not what you want to do. You want to get someone that speaks good English if it's not yourself. So if you guys are taking notes, the system I use for cold calling is a system called Call Tools, and they have an auto dialer on there. And basically you can upload a list of phone numbers, and it will basically dial like 7 numbers at a time. And basically the first person that picks up the phone is who you'll talk to live. Okay, so, but if you can, I think it's like $100 a month for one seat. So per seat it's $100. Let's see, if you're not interested in doing that, I would suggest maybe doing Google Voice, and you're just single dialing. But then again, if you're taking a smarter approach, you're also targeting those who are really in distressed a situation, and you're not just blanket marketing to everyone. So it might be more helpful for you to single line dial, because you might miss that lead if you're using the auto dialer like Call Tools. All right, SMS, by the way, we're not attorneys. We're not giving you guys any legal advice. There's several ways for you to get sued in this world, including walking in this building the wrong way. So make sure you read the laws and descriptions of the resources that I'm going to tell you about. No, tell them Tim sent you from Life and There. Okay. So SMS, you have SMS marketing, which is text messaging. You can also do text blast. The system that I use for that is called Smarter Contact. And it's basically the same thing as, similar relation to cold calling, where you upload a list and you can send out various messages letting people know that you're interested in a property. And when it comes to like doing cold calling SMS, it's like bulk opportunities. It's like with wholesaling, as you guys know, everyone doesn't need our help, right? So you're really just fishing out there to find the needle in the haystack. And sometimes it's a lot more helpful and a lot more easier on you if you're blasting that net out there. That's the approach that I take. I'm not out here like just trying to create another job for myself. I got in this position to get my freedom. And I've been doing really well. I haven't worked for anyone in a while besides myself. So I will blast it out there, and then whoever hits me back, they hit me back. If not, then we're moving on to the next system. Okay? So we got ringless voicemails. I'm surprised that a lot of people don't know about ringless voicemails. Who knows about ringless voicemails in here? Okay, good. So ringless voicemail is basically where you pre-record a message, and then you basically upload it into a system and you blast it out to a list of phone numbers. So instead of cold calling, if you don't want to pay $100 a month for a cold calling system or pay someone else to make those cold calls for you, I'll give you guys this if you're taking notes and you're really interested in this, my hack on sending out RVMs is I have an IVR system, which means you press 1 and press 2, right? So I blast out a message to everybody. And then once they call back in and they say, hey, if you're interested in selling your house, press 1. If you'd like to be taken off the do not call list, press 2. Now, the hack to that is on the back end, whenever they press 1 to talk to a live agent in my office, just depending on if it's like during office hours or if it isn't, it may go automatically to voicemails. So if they leave you a voicemail, then you know that they're truly motivated, right? Outside of that, you probably don't want to call them back because they're probably calling you to cuss you out till you take them off your list. So that's what I do. And then, if I miss some, then oh well, but typically the ones that I do get, they leave me a voicemail. That's the golden egg. That's the person that really needs my help. And that's how I save myself some time. Okay. And then we also have pay-per-click, which can be extremely expensive, especially in Nashville. If you ever get on Google and you're looking up any business or whatever on Google, like a store or something like that, you may see the ones at the top of Google that's in bold and they're highlighted and it says ad beside it. So if you want your wholesale business or your whatever business you got going on to be at the top to where they call you first, you want to do pay-per-click. And so KPI, which is key performance indicators. So if you're smart, you may test all of these, and what you want to do is you want to track which one works the best. And whichever one works the best, that's your key. You're tracking the KPIs, which is all the numbers on this, and whichever one works the best, that's the one you want to dump your most money into, your most time. Okay? All right.
As well is SMS, right? So, which is sending text messages. Now, if you do want to claim your time, you don't want to cold call all day long. A lot of times, people starting out, they have anxiety with talking to people on the phone. It's like cold calling is actually one of the scariest things to do for people, right? To pick up the phone, call somebody that you don't know and ask them a question. Like, you start sweating. It's like, what do I need to do? What am I going to say? Because they can answer the phone and they will answer the phone. And you say, I want to buy your house, and you don't have another line after that. They're looking at you crazy. So what you can do is you can send a SMS, right? So, and I like SMS services that I use is Batch Leads, which is a platform that it allows you to send individual text messages at a rapid rate. So I use that, but text messaging kind of gets straight to the point, right? You know why I reached out to you. So you can either say yes, or you can use a lot of other dirty words, right? That you shouldn't have said, but you know why I called at that point. So SMS is good for those who, you don't have a lot of time, and you can do it from your phone, you can do it from a platform, or you can have your little brother do it for 30 minutes, pay him a couple of dollars, or you can hire, somebody else to do it, outsource it, which we'll discuss in the staffing part of it.
About also how you find your list. We're talking about lists. I didn't even tell you guys how to find it. So basically you can go to the county. County data is the most important thing that you can get instead of paying someone for it. You can go straight to the courthouse, find tax delinquent, find divorce, find probate information, and then you would skip trace, like Eric was just saying, you can cold call or SMS, but you skip trace, which means you find their phone number. And the place you want to find their phone number or the system you want to use, you can use White Pages, which I believe is like $100 a year or something like that, very cheap, especially if you're doing it one by one, or you can do it bulk and upload a list by using batch as well, which is how you find phone numbers as well, batch.
Yeah, they got the best quality data. I'm not paid to say that they had it.
So everybody's doing the texting nowadays, but did you guys get anything from the FCC yet coming down on you? I'm just asking.
Well, it just depends on the platform you use. A lot of times the platforms are changing the way that they deliver the message. It has to follow a certain sequence in order for it to not, for you to not get sued. So now instead of sending out a blast of text messages, you may have to sit there and press enter 1,000 times for it to go to 1,000 numbers. That means that you did not robo-text, you actually single-handedly texted that person.
Right. And then too, the carriers are adding a, do you want me to stop texting you after the text comes, right? So essentially the carrier is doing their part to let you know that this is an automated text message. But the platform, like he said, the platform that you use, the responsibility is on us to do it the right way. But since they're providing us with the service to reach these people at a rapid rate, they have to put the tools in place for it to be, legal as well. So I hadn't ran into the FCC yet. Don't want to run into them, but so, all right. So the next thing that we could talk about is staffing. All right. So now with wholesaling, you're not going to start off with a team. Personally, I feel like it's good to not have a team to begin with. That way you can actually learn how to do it and realize that it's not a hard business, but it's not an easy business. But once you get to that period where you're like, look, I need to get my time back. I didn't have the time to begin with. You can bring a staff on, and you can do that either virtually or in-house. So the first thing that I hired was a virtual assistant. Now you can get a virtual assistant overseas. I would say to start off doing tasks that don't necessarily make you money, right? Administrative tasks. And the website that you can use for that is Upwork.com. So Upwork.com essentially is a great place where you can find VAs that work in other countries where the American dollar is worth more, and you get them at a cheaper rate, right? But they do good quality. A lot of the largest companies, across the nation, they use outsourced work for your development, web development, things like that. So you can get on there to find a virtual assistant for anything, right? And when it's time to hire, I feel like when you're trying to scale is the best time to hire. So the first person I hired, like I said, was a virtual assistant. Then I hired a couple of more virtual assistants. When I decided to move into an office, I got an assistant, like an actual assistant. My good thing is I wanted to outsource what I wasn't good at. And I'm not the most organized person, I'm gonna be honest with you. I can talk to people all day long. I'm not scared to do that at all. But when it comes to being organized and making sure that things are happening the right way, well, not happening the right way, but things are going in the right order and remembering, I use the admin assistant. And that's a virtual assistant and a lead manager. So what a lead manager does is you're gonna talk to these people all day, right? And you're gonna get to a point to where there's more people that you can talk to and sift through. So you have certain types of leads. You got a raw lead, which is someone who just said that they were interested, right? That raw lead is just, they may have responded to one of your marketing pieces, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that person is a deal, right? Then you want to turn that raw lead into a qualified lead. So who does that? If you're just starting out, it could be you. But to qualify that lead, you would teach your admin assistant or your virtual assistant to, a script to get property information, find out what their motivation is, see if they're actually really ready to sell that house, or if they're just, bumping smoke. And that's going to be the most important person of the business, is finding a lead manager. The next stage is getting an acquisitions team. So it's real sexy right now on YouTube to have a lot of acquisitions guys, to have a super huge organization, a lot of seats. You don't really need that to do deals. You just have to have a quality person who can have a quality conversation. So an acquisitions person is responsible for hitting different metrics that can still be you at this stage of the business, or you can hire somebody else who has this skill set. So they're going to be responsible for, you know, how many offers did they make this week? You know, how many follow-ups do they have, right? How many appointments did they set with their sellers? How many properties are they going to, or how many properties are they sending people out to get pictures, right? This is the individual who is going to be responsible for driving your business. So you got to have the right person in that seat. And I'm gonna be honest with you, the turnover for that role is very high because it can be demanding, right? You asking me to make all these follow-up phone calls and contact all these people for a fee. After a while, I'm gonna get tired of you. I'm gonna get tired of them, but I'm gonna get tired of you telling me to do it. So you have to find somebody who actually likes sales, who likes to talk to people, and who has a competitive edge, if that's not yourself. And then the last thing would be a transaction coordinator. You know, this is someone who, like I said, you want to step outside of these roles as needed. If you're not doing a lot of transactions, you don't need a transaction coordinator, right? If you're not doing multiple deals that you can handle, but this person engages with the title company once the contract is signed, then, you know, they move it along the process. Essentially, they're the individual who handles the paperwork. They deal with the tenants. They deal with the seller after, so your salesperson can continue on finding more deals for you, and your business can grow. So that's kind of a high-level overview of the positions that are necessary in the business. All right. So I'll go over negotiations as well. So negotiating is a tricky thing, right? Because, you know, it's all really going to, I don't care how killer of a negotiator you are. If I don't like you, I'm not going to sell to you. Like if I don't like the way that you presented yourself to me, it doesn't matter how much sales training that you've had, how many classes you've been to, or how much of a haggler you are. If I don't like you, I'm not going to be able to negotiate with you. So rapport builds negotiations, right? If I've built good rapport with you, then I'm going to be able to negotiate. Needs and problems determine the flexibility. Again, this is a situational business. So depending on the situation is going to determine how much of a negotiation we're going to have. If I really need to sell this house and I'm in pre-foreclosure and the bank is giving me 14 days, I'm going to negotiate, right? But if I live in downtown Nashville on 2nd Avenue and my property value is appreciating at a rapid rate, I really don't need to talk to you right now, right? So I'm going to be a harder negotiation to sell than somebody who actually needs that. So you have to realize that, but like I said, you don't want to exploit that. You just want to understand that this is the situation and, you know, this is what we need to do. You always, I think Tyler mentioned this a little bit earlier, you always want to utilize the numbers and use data in your negotiations. It's one thing for me to say your property is worth this, but I can offer you this. If I can give you the numbers on what has sold for what a property is sold for at its highest value, I should also be able to provide you with this same as is value. So when you're a salesperson and you're on the phone or acquisitions person, I always like to tell my guys, look, the ARV is cool, but what are investors paying in their neighborhood? That's going to justify you offering, you know, 70%, 60% on the dollar of the ARV, which is the after repair value. So you always want to lean on the data because it's going to save you. It's not going to make it sound like you're trying to get over on me when I actually present you this offer. Then you want to, you know, explain the benefits. Sometimes the benefits is speed. Speed is the benefit. Sometimes the benefit is, you know, debt relief. Sometimes the benefit is time relief. You know, people have investment properties. I think Tim has been in this business for 30 years. I talked to him. I'm pretty sure a tenant's got on his nerves one time or two, right? So if you have these properties, it may not necessarily be that you need the money, but you may need your time back. So you have to understand what the benefit of you selling to me is and what you can do in that process. I can cover your closing costs. You know, I can help you with the moving expenses. I can pay the tenant, you know, 2 months of rent so that they can find somewhere to live. Like all these different things you have to do with people. This is a people business. So I've paid rent for tenants for 2-3 months. I've paid sellers, right, money up front, before the property is closed, right? These different things you will have to do to get a deal done. And a lot of times, you know, the investor who's going to buy it from you, they may not even know you've done all that. You know, you've done that because your responsibility is for the seller. You're in the first position of that contract, and you have to understand that that person is looking at you as the buyer. So they're looking to you to perform. So those are some things, and this never setting a false expectation is kind of self-explanatory. You know, you don't want to say I can do something I can't do it, right? You don't want to get to the closing table and you done told somebody that I can give you $90,000, but you don't have a buyer for it because you didn't rely on the data. You know, you set a false expectation and now the property won't sell, and now you're looking at them crazy, or you've lost your earnest money, right? Or they've tarnished your business and your reputation. So all these things go into negotiations. It's not just about haggling with numbers. Even though sales is a big part of it, you know, you still have to be a person to begin with, or you're not going to be a good negotiator. So it's negotiations.
All right, we're going to talk about dispositions next. So now you've got the deal, you worked out an agreement with the seller, and now it's time to actually find your exit strategy, whether that be wholesale, buy it, keep it yourself, hold it as a rental, or you know, anything else that you're able to work out with the owner. So you can build relationships with realtors. Realtors have people who are work with investors, and even sometimes people who are just looking for a place to live. And sometimes they don't want to pay market value. Sometimes they can't afford to pay market value. So they might talk to a realtor, say, hey, do you have a fixer upper that I can buy? I'll buy it cash. Or, you know, maybe they have a loan that will you know, pay for the fixing for, what is it, 203K loan or something like that, to where they'll do the repairs for you on your behalf as long as this meets some certain standard. But you just really never know the situation. But there's realtors who are able to actually help you sell your deals as well. You can joint venture with someone like Eric and I. You know, if you have a deal that you're looking to, let's say you've done all the front end work, we'll do the back end work. And we may have a pool of buyers. We know Tim, we know everyone in here that we can actually say, hey, Tim, I got this deal. Are you interested? Someone brought it to me from wherever. You know, do you want to do business? Let's see, you got virtual. So we got virtual or in-person showing. So once you have the property under contract, the biggest question is, okay, how do I get Tim inside the property, right? So you set that expectation, say, hey, Mr. or Mrs. Seller, I have partners that are interested in coming in to deal with me that are possibly going to buy the deal on my behalf. You know, if I'm not able to buy it myself, then they may be interested, and we're going to come through and do a quick walkthrough. Okay. So what they'll do is, you know, they'll come through and they'll run their numbers. And if it meets Tim's standards, then he may buy it. Or if, you know, if it meets my standards, I may buy it myself, you know. And then let's just say you have a property that's in Idaho, like Eric said, you pretty much want to, that's more experienced and more advanced situation there, to where if you're going to do a virtual wholesale deal where you pretty much can get on Craigslist and hire someone to go there on your behalf and say, hey, make sure certain things line up to where the end buyer doesn't go through and tell the seller, like, and just basically screw you out of the deal. You just want to protect yourself. And we can talk about that in more in depth, but that is a more, you know, sensitive situation that you might want to avoid, especially if you're just starting off, but I can help you with that. You have email, you have text, and you have Facebook groups, which is basically situations where the same way you blasted to found the deal, you can blast it the same way to sell the deal. It's really that simple. And actually, believe it or not, most of the time when you blast it to sell it, you're blasting it to people who actually want to hear about it, you know, because they want to make the money. Relationships. I know me personally, I've never been a big blast guy. I really like to work with those people who know how I operate, and we have that level of respect. So I may have about 6, 7 buyers, sometimes 10 that I'll pitch it to, you know, that way we keep it personal. And that way, when it comes down to closing and it's my time to perform for the seller, I don't want to let the seller down. I don't want to let the buyer down. They don't want to let me down. We've already set that expectation. So if you get out here and you blast it to, you know, a list of 1 million buyers and you don't even have a relationship with them, that creates a very sensitive situation where they can back out. You know, a lot of things could go wrong. So I take the personal approach, which I build these relationships, which is why a lot of you guys probably know me, and we've gotten to that level where we're like, okay, we trust each other. This is why a lot of you guys are here, because you maybe see that in me. But that's it as far as dispositions.
All right, so let's go ahead and run a quick analysis on a wholesale deal. So to be honest, it wasn't until I started buying real estate that I took this approach. So I try to factor in a lot of different options when putting the property under contract. I try to keep the buyer in mind, right? And, kind of make some assumptions on what they're going to pay before buying this deal or at the closing table, right? So a lot of times when they say I'm a cash buyer, there are some true cash buyers out here. Some cash buyers are in this room. They have the money in the checking account, right? Some people have private money, meaning that they don't have the money in their checking account, but they do know individuals with that money that'll go ahead and close. But a lot of investors who aren't doing a lot of volume, they're going to use hard money, which means they're going to use a hard money lender for a short-term note, which is about between 6 and 8 months, and they're going to pay points and loan origination to buy that property and fix it up and flip it, right? So that's going to cost that investor some money on the front end to get the deal done. So let's just use this 123 Main Street in Clarksville, for example. So we're going to say that the after repair value of the property is $235,000, right? It's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,400 square feet, and it was built in 1985. So looking at that, if I'm gonna make a cash offer range, I want it to be between 45% and 65% of the ARV. So I want to buy that property 45 cents to 65 cents on the dollar. It's a hot market right now, so you can go a little bit higher than that. But in a traditional market, that's pretty much where you want to be, regardless of what market that you're in. So I know that the hard money lender is probably only going to lend up to 70% of the after repair value, meaning that hard money lender is going to give that investor 70% of the money, 70% of the amount that the property is actually worth. So I want to keep that number in mind. So really that buyer only has $164,000 to play with if they're going to use a hard money loan, right? So I did a couple of scenarios. We got the sales price is going to stay the same, but depending on the property, you did your due diligence. You went out there and looked at the property. You're not a contractor, but you kind of did some rough numbers looking at the pictures. It may take $30,000 or it may take $50,000 or it may take $70,000. But if you're wholesaling that property, you still have to factor in what you're going to get paid. I mean, you're not doing it for free, so at the end of the day, if you don't factor that in, then, it's charity at that point. Nothing wrong with charity, but this business, you know what I'm saying? So you have to do that. And also too, they're going to sell that property with a real estate agent. So that's 6%. And then you have some closing costs, loan origination, and then 6 months of holding costs. So if I add all that in, I'm going to deduct that from my ARV, and I want to make an average wholesale fee of $10,000. At what point is this deal not a good deal for an investor? All right. So if you have a light rehab, which is 30 grand, that investor could make 47,000. I can make 10. If it's going to take 50,000 to flip that property, that investor can make 27,000. Still a deal depending on the investor, and I can make 10. Now this number is relative. At this point, you can make more than that 10. But if my minimum deal size is $10,000, I know that I can sell it for this. I can sell this property for $125, right? Because I got it under contract at $115, which is kind of, that's 45%. My math ain't that good, but it's probably it's probably 55%, somewhere along those lines, right? So you want to do these numbers. This is something that I started doing later on down the line, because I started looking at it not just from my perspective, but from a buyer's perspective, because ultimately those costs do add up. And you send that deal out, or you send that deal to an investor, they don't respond back to you. It's a reason why. It's not because they don't like you. It's just not a deal. So that's essentially, what a wholesale deal looks like. And that's what I train my team to look at when we doing wholesale deals. So
there's also nothing wrong with if you're beginning to ask, a mentor or someone who flips houses and someone that you actually trust, like, hey, come look at this property with me. I think it's a good deal. Let's go look at it. I'm not really good at estimating, how much the repair costs, and I don't want to make my name bad and just blast this out there and everyone's like, what the heck is Tyler talking about? So if you could come with me, let's do this together, and maybe we could break bread and cut split this deal down the middle. I'm fumbling on my words because I didn't want to say something a while ago. But anyways, There's nothing wrong with that. I've done it several times, and that's the reason why I've been able to develop those relationships, because I'm like, hey man, look, I'll be honest with you. I don't know how much this costs. I've never flipped anything in my life. When I first started, come with me, come look at this house. You tell me how much it's worth to you, and I'll work it out with the seller. There's nothing wrong with that. That's all I want to say. And because, like I said, you just want to protect your relationships and your relationships, because if you get out there and say, hey, I think it's a $10,000 rehab, and then somebody goes out there and it's really a $60K rehab, then no one's going to pick up your call anymore. They're gonna don't do deals with Tyler. Please don't. Trust me. You know, so there's people out there that's doing that. And that's what we're talking about with ethics too. You don't want to be that guy.
I think that's it.
Yeah.
We open up the question, I guess.
Yeah, we're gonna open up the floor for questions. We might have the answer as long as it's not anything legal. Just go ahead, Anthony.
So you were talking about setting the expectation as far as the disposition. So I am an acquisition manager. That's something that can be a little bit troublesome for me, right? Because it's like you set yourself up as the buyer when you're talking with the seller, and especially if it's an in-person appointment. You go through, you walk the property, so you get an idea as to what you're looking at. Speaking for myself, and then for example, I had a property up in Bordeaux. And I had brought one of someone that I trusted out there to kind of bring me rehab numbers, and it came. They were thinking somewhere between 55 and 65. Well, essentially the first round of showings, set an expectation. Hey, I've got to get some of my property specialists in here just to give me some hard numbers for the property before we go ahead and close. Well, obviously those were my buyers coming in, and everyone was at about 80, 85 on the rehab. So that really kind of shot the deal out the window. I mean, being that far of a difference. So it was kind of like, I had to, get in there 3 more times. And it was like, obviously that's not ideal, but like setting the expectation, at least on the acquisition side with the seller, like you were saying, hey, I'm gonna bring some people through. I mean, how do you kind of tell that to the seller? What are you kind of projecting to let them know that, hey, I may need to bring some people in here to give me some information, or they may be my potential buyers in a sense.
Yeah,
how do you guys usually approach that?
Gotcha, that's a great question. I'm glad you asked that. So typically what I would do, like I said, I set the expectations up front. Now let me ask you, if you wanted to buy the property, could you?
Personally, no.
No, I mean, just look, if you had it your way, could you buy the property?
Yeah.
Just if you were able to put a puzzle piece together, could you do it?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's say if you were able to find the money, so that's, okay, let me just say this. I lead with, hey, if I'm not able to buy the property, I have partners, investors that may buy the property in my place. That way we make sure the sale is always going to go through. I try my best to do that. So now I'm honest about that because I can buy the property. Like Eric said, there's people that you can use and they'll actually fund the deal for you. As long as they make money, you can make money, and everybody makes money, right? So if you were to call me and say, hey Tyler, I think I want to buy this property, and you know me, right? So you could call me and I can help you do that, right? So there's nothing wrong with you saying that. Now, if I'm not able to do it, let's just say the money costs too much for you to borrow. Right. Then that's where you would have someone like, me and him, if we're buyers, to come in and buy it in your place. So we're basically, if you think about it, and this is honest, we're securing that this deal goes through. We're just trying to protect it as best as possible. And that's pretty much, you can spin that however you want to, but it is the honest truth, because I have bought stuff myself and I've also let my partners buy it. Which they are my partners, because the deal wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for me. I'm on paper, I'm on contract, I'm the reason why this is happening. You're coming in my place to buy it, so we're partnering on this deal.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
No, 100%. Honesty is key in all of,
Absolutely. Which, I mean, you can get confused with that. Trust me, I didn't start off like that. I didn't know what to say, but if you think about it, and like I say, that's why I always say, be yourself, be honest, tell the truth. And that's just what I just did. That sounds a whole lot better than, I got some guys that may buy it, or I don't know if I can really buy it, or I'm the guy that can buy it, when you're not really sure about it.
Right.
So you just want to leave that door open, but also make it as secure as possible.
Also too, like Tyler said, you want to be honest. You also want to, if you're a new wholesaler, you want to understand the importance of a due diligence period, right? Those are key words, right? Due diligence. Due diligence means it gives me a period of time to say, hey, Mr. Seller, well, if I buy the property or one of my partners buy this property, we're going to have to come in and take a look at it, right? That may be once, that may be twice, that may be 3 times. And my responsibility is to make sure that we get this deal done So I have to get the accurate numbers. But you can't just say that without having a legal period in your contract that says you have that period of time. Now, working unethically would be doing that for 30 days and your contract is 30 days, right? You want to try to get that done if you say, hey, I got a 9-day due diligence period. Within that 9 days of due diligence, we're going to come in and take a look at their property and see if we can get this done, right? To let them know that if I can't get it done, because the reality is that not all deals are going to close, right? That's just the truth. You got to be able to tell that hard truth to the seller, but legally you want it to be in the contract, right? So the due diligence period is going to be big. Make sure you give yourself adequate amount of time so that if you have to make an exit and the deal is truly not a deal, you gave the seller that expectation. It was in your legal right to do so. So I always keep due diligence in your back pocket.
One more thing on that. I just wanted to mention this is very important. A lot of times people don't understand all the work that wholesalers have to do. Sometimes if there's a death in the family and things like that, I mean, you may have to go out and find heirs to, brothers and sisters. If someone died and they didn't leave a will and it needs to close, and then you say, hey, I'm going to close in 10 days, but then again, you got to find brothers and sisters, and then you got to get documents legally signed. It has to go through probate. You're the one, if you're ethical, is the one that's going to make sure that happens and you push it through. So that's why Eric says you want to have that due diligence, because once it goes through title, there's no telling what could come back. They may have a great aunt who the property actually belonged to, or a long lost brother. I've had that, long lost brothers who actually is the owner of the property. And now I done work with this person. Now I got to go deal with this guy, and then you just set that expectations because you really never know what could happen. As long as you let them know that, they should pretty much be understanding. But if you go in there like you know everything, that's when you set yourself up for failure.
In wholesaling business, do you guys ever take on a contract that's not a cash deal, like a terms offer or anything like that? Is that hard to move if you agree to one of those?
Well, I think in my experience, because I've taken on a property that was essentially intended to be a wholesale deal, the numbers didn't make sense and I bought it on terms. Okay. Right? So if you buy it on terms, buying a property on terms is a specialized knowledge. But if you have it in your tool belt, you're able to create an opportunity out of something that a traditional buyer wouldn't buy, right? So if you do that, I wouldn't say a newbie should do that off the rip. You want to be able to have somebody, like Tyler said, that you can call, right? Somebody who's done that, somebody who knows about creative finance and creative real estate solutions that you can actually get that deal done. Because what you don't want to do is you don't want to say, all right, Mr. Seller, I can buy this property subject to, and I can take over your mortgage payments. We'll give you $2,000 down, and I take over your mortgage payments, for 7 years or whatever. You're a newbie. You don't have the $2,000. You don't have the real estate attorney who can actually draw up the wraparound mortgage, all that good stuff. Now you've set yourself up for a false expectation. So if you can do those deals, you should be knowledgeable about it. But definitely, if you have the individual who can take it down for you, or if you can take it down yourself, I would say go for it, because you can wholesale that deal.
Okay, thanks.
Go ahead.
So I have a question about hiring people. When you're hiring an assistant or someone to do acquisitions, how do you get around them if they're not licensed? If they're calling people and cold calling and negotiating, things like that, how do you get around them not practicing real estate without a license?
Well, the thing is, you don't have to have a license to do real estate. You have to have a license to represent a buyer or a seller and list a property on the MLS. So those are two different things, right? So you practicing real estate and you being a real estate professional with a license, it's two different objectives. So if you have an acquisitions person, that individual is responsible for prospecting deals on your behalf, and you being the buyer and or assigns, meaning that person doesn't have to have a license. Now they have to move within ethics, but they don't have to have a license to do that. And neither do you, right? Go ahead.
Right, no, because I understand, if I'm the wholesaler, I understand that there's no issue with that.
Right.
And I guess my question is, if someone's working on your behalf, I'm just wondering if that can be construed as I guess, because so for example, in a traditional real estate brokerage, a
right.
real estate agent can't have, if he has an unlicensed agent, they can't cold call, they can't negotiate contracts, things like that. So,
Right.
like, I'm just wondering if that kind of transfers
Can I help
to.
you out with that?
Does that
Go
make
ahead.
sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does make sense what you're saying.
Yeah.
In the case of an assistant to a real estate agent, and I'm a broker myself,
Okay.
my assistant cannot call to set up, they can call to set up appointments for me.
Mhm.
They cannot call to make sales for me.
Right.
They're not making any sales.
Okay, so just
They're
because.
making appointments,
Right.
and they're talking to people about houses. They're not listing the property, they're not selling the property.
So since it's wholesale and not technically selling, that's.
I wouldn't even
how-
call it wholesaling, they're appointment setters.
Okay.
Right. And then the key thing to realize is that, like I said, that person is really just negotiating on your behalf. But the tricky thing is that in our minds, we're thinking we're about to sell this property, because a sale is usually buying, exchanging of things, whether it be property, goods, whatever, right? But you're really just assigning a contract. So since I'm assigning a contract, if I have a business, or if I'm doing it for my personal name, that person is just going to find a seller who needs to sell. They negotiate on the property, on a price for that property, and then you sign that contract and you assign your rights, right? Like she was saying, as a real estate broker, they're not making any sales on the MLS. So if you keep that in mind, it seems the same, but it's different. It's different.
And also, if you have any type of license, you get a license and there's certain rules that you have to follow in order to keep those licenses. If we're not licensed, we don't have to follow those same rules. And then also you want to also make sure the proper verbiage is in your agreements that protects you. And the way you do that is you talk to a real estate attorney. Okay, so that's pretty much it from what I understand. And I've been doing this going on 6-7 years and never had an issue. But make sure when you're dealing with title companies, make sure that they have a real estate attorney in office that can represent you and make sure that everything's done properly. And that's how you protect yourself. Any more questions, anybody?
What are your best performing KPIs for your businesses? And two-part question, at what point did you decide you were gonna start scaling, and how did you do it? And when I say how did you do it, like first you hired an assistant, how did you pay them? Was it commission-based? Did you do it hourly? Things of that nature.
Yeah, man, that's a loaded question, right? But that's a great question. Have you ever wholesaled before?
No, I haven't.
Okay, you sound like it, because you're like, but
A lot of bigger pockets and podcasts
Gotcha.
and all that.
Okay. Let's see here. So first question was what? KPIs. My best performing KPI, I would say, would be text messaging, because you can send out a text and pretty much when you send out that blast, you're going to get several messages back, and you can pretty much filter that out and see who's hot and who's not. They're going to text you several different things, and someone's going to say, hey, yeah, well, okay, I know we didn't cover this earlier, but your blast out message is like, hey, my name is Tyler. If I live down the street, this is an example. I live down the street, saw your house, couldn't tell if anyone lived in it. Are you interested in selling? They're either going to say yes, or they're going to say, screw you, take me off your list. And as you're looking at the screen, you can look at the screen at those several messages and see who's really wants to do business, right? So that's my best performing. And when it comes to scaling, and when it's time to scale, is there so many tasks that it's just taking you all day to do, and you're just overloaded and you're overwhelmed? And if that's the case and you have the revenue for it, that's when you want to kind of outsource. So that's how I did it.
And when you outsourced, was it like per contract you were paying your employees that you first started hiring, or how did you pay them?
Okay, so like Eric mentioned earlier, I paid virtual assistants to do the busy work. So that may be uploading my list. That may be pulling the data, and you can find virtual assistants to do that like in the Philippines or whatever, and pay them like $4.50 an hour, which is what I pay mine. And that's a lot of money to them, due to where they live at. And, they're willing to do that and put in the work in those prospective areas.
Now your salespeople, you have two different ways. And like Tyler said, you want to do it based off of necessity, but you can pay your virtual assistants per project. So you may say, hey, I only need you for 30 days, 60 days, so I can get caught up, right? You can pay them per project for whatever you negotiate with them. When you have the salesperson, it depends on the system that you have. If you're producing enough leads for those salespeople, and you can bank on them getting a deal closed, doing commission only, go for it, right? But a lot of times, you know, some people, they still have to eat, they still have to live, they still have to be able to make it to work, pay their rent. So paying them hourly plus commission works as well, but it all is going to depend on how much you're marketing and, you know, how much lead flow that they have, because the salesperson is really relying, and that's what a lot of wholesalers or buyers as well don't really understand, is that we have to, it is an engine that provides those leads on a day-to-day basis that turns into deals, right? So it's not just I called somebody up and they said they wanted to sell, right? A KPI, you mentioned KPIs, you know, your offers made to your deals closed KPI may be, you may have to talk to 20, you may have to make 25 to 30 offers for you to get one deal closed, right? So, and what's an actual, at what point do you get to make an offer? It's when that person really wants to sell. So how many people did I talk to get to that one offer, right? So it's a need-based thing. So it's not like you just want to start out trying to do big volume if you don't understand the business.
So if you say, hey, it took 25 offers to get one contract, right? And you're one person, and you're like, dang, I want to double up. They got me one contract. I want to get 2 contracts a month. Let's just say this on a month basis. Then you say, hey, I want to get 2 contracts. So what would you do? You would need to make 50 offers to get that, right? So then you need to bring someone else to make that other 25 offers. So that way you can get two contracts. You get what I'm saying? So that's kind of how you balance it out and you track your key performance indicators.
Awesome, thank you both.
Yeah.
We have to cut out.
Okay.
We live across town, but thank you.
No problem.
Great information.
All right. Thank you for coming out.
I think he was.
So I've been wholesaling for 3 years now.
Right.
But something that I still struggle with is lead management. How are y'all? Do y'all have any tips for keeping leads from falling through the cracks?
Well, for one, you want to have a CRM, right? You want to have a customer relations management system, but a CRM without anybody working it on a day-to-day basis is like having a car and nobody drives it. You're not gonna go nowhere. You know, so you have to have somebody to do that, whether that be you allocating some time throughout the day to say, hey, I'm going to just spend this amount of time to manage these leads, or you hiring somebody, a virtual assistant, getting some help. I mean, a lot of times, you know, when I first started out, I just needed some help, you know, so I couldn't really pay somebody to help me, you know, use some of your loved ones who want to see you succeed, right? Individuals who don't mind giving their time, but you have to understand that you have to put a system in place. If you're not focusing on putting a system in place for your business, you won't be able to, you know, produce a sustainable result. So that would be my advice.
I would definitely say have tiers of your leads to where you're working on hot leads, you're working on leads that are not so hot, and then the cold leads end up going last. You know what I'm saying? So if you go through and filter your list, like if you have a lead manager, or even if you're doing it yourself, go through a couple of hours, say, all right, these are my hot leads. These are the guys I'm focused on first. And then you have the people who are secondary. You get what I'm saying? That's how you balance it out. And if you have your list organized, you want to use a system called Podio. Podio is a CRM that you can use, okay? You can actually go on Fiverr.com and type in, I need like a real estate Podio system. You'll see videos and stuff on there of guys who have created systems that would do the automatic follow-ups for you, send out emails, text messages, and make sure that you're staying on top of your game. But that's kind of how I automated my business, is using like Podio, you know, a simple email. And then what it does is the system will actually, you'll get maybe a message in, and the system will say, hey, this guy's interested in selling, so it'll automatically send them an email out. I know you guys have gotten emails to where you can tell, hey, probably this person didn't write this, but it may sound like it or look like it because it came too quick. And that's kind of the systems you want to have, like a CRM. So Podio is a good system for that.
How do you spell that?
Podio?
P-O-D-I-O?
Yes, sir. P-O-D. Oh, yep. Fiverr too, Fiverr, and then just type in automated Podio on there, and you'll be able to get hooked up.
Okay, so I have a question. How long did it take you guys to get your first wholesale deal? And even then, how long did you educate yourself before first going out to make that deal?
We'll go first.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, I got a wholesale deal because I didn't know what I was doing. So it made it a lot easier because I didn't overthink. My guys was just like, because I had some guys that was wholesaling before me, like, bro, we make so much money, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, well, it doesn't seem that hard. Like, yeah, man, they gave me the hardest job, and I made the least money because I didn't know what I was doing. But I'm the one who closed the deal, and later on realized it. But they're like, hey, bro, just get the house under contract for this price. Oh, that's it? Okay, no problem. Knocking on the door, hey, we need to do this, and this is why, blah, blah. And they're just feeding me all this information. I'm just taking what they're telling me. So there's nothing constantly telling me, like, am I doing the right thing? It's just like, I believe these guys are doing it. So it's just like, that's the reason why I was able to do it. But I was extremely successful. I was actually even in college when I did it. But, so, I mean, that maybe took me like 2 to 3 weeks to do, but I should have made a lot more money.
It wasn't that quick for me, to be honest. I would say it took about 3 to 4 months. That's really because I was not really doing it consistently. Like, I was kind of just, I had my foot in it. I didn't think it was real at first, but it took me about 4 months. Now, I kind of had the same scenario where buyer got me though. Like, I only made $1,500 because he knew I didn't know what I was doing. But it took me about 3 months, but once I figured out that it could be done and I repeated them steps, I was able to get it done consistently after that. But it took a little minute. And I educated myself for a while. I think that's probably, some people have that issue, is like you learning everything about it, but you don't pull the trigger on it. You're right. Tyler made a good point earlier, is that don't be afraid to ask for help, right? I'm one of them hard-headed people, right? I gotta touch the stove to know it's hot. Right? So I didn't really listen to people. So I could have got a deal a lot sooner. It's not that I wasn't taking action. I was just taking the wrong action for the wrong period of time. So when I did that and I switched up my methods, I was able to get the deal done.
Yeah, don't be afraid to fail. When you're not afraid to fail, your life will change. You'll win a lot more than you realize. And I'm not saying that's your situation. That was my situation, to where it's like you can just be nervous any day. You wake up, every day is a new day. So you just got to conquer and know I got to go to work every day. Forget it. You had a question.
Yeah.
So I got you though.
Why do you like call tools better than Mojo or those other dialers?
Mojo is kind of outdated. Call tools is just the first thing that I was introduced to. I don't know, I'm probably like an old man already, to where like if it works, I'm not about to switch. I don't want to learn nothing new. That's probably one of my problems. But unless I can outsource it, hey, you learn this for me, I'm gonna pay you, and you put you in that seat, and we gonna roll with it. You know what I'm saying? I'm not afraid to share the wealth when I do things like that. But I'm not trying to learn anything new. Yeah.
Cool.
Is that it? You good?
Yeah,
Okay.
What books would you recommend reading that would help with either wholesaling or just in real estate in general?
I would recommend Flip by Nick Ruiz. But we got guys that's doing, like 100K months that still recommend that book. Like it'll show you from A to Z exactly what to do and how to do it.
I would recommend, this is more of a mindset book, but the 10X Rule by Grant Cardone. It kind of, that book will expand your mind as far as like what you actually capable of. So the 10X Rule was one of the first books that I read when I got into real estate. It wasn't specifically about real estate, but it was more so a mindset book that helps out. Because, real estate is really all mindset. You have to believe that you can do it. A lot of times people don't really feel like they're worthy of being successful, all right? So that's one of those first key things you have to overcome. Is like, okay, do I deserve to get paid? Like, do I deserve to change my life? Like, that's really like what you have to kind of deep down really find out, is that what's really, so I would recommend the 10X Rule.
Yeah, and another book, guys, once you get going, you do your first deal, and you're like, man, this is good. I want to keep this gravy train going. And you try to wonder, like, okay, you look at the greats. How does Walmart stay alive so long? How did the Rockefellers, how are they so successful and their name still carries weight? How does McDonald's still keep their business afloat, right? There's a book called Traction that lays out every single step by step, on how to create businesses and keep those sustained the same way that they do.
My question is, how many flips and how many do y'all do in a month? I guess, how many are y'all getting?
Wholesale deals, we do about 6 to 7 deals a month. That's what we do consistently. Yeah.
How many do you do?
Yes, around the same. So I think average, the least I'll be able to make with my team is like 5, but we try to shoot for 10 deals a month. Mm-hmm.
What does that team look like for you guys at being at about 5 deals plus a month consistently? And obviously you guys are outsourcing, kind of busy work in that sense. Now, especially with the COVID, everyone kind of got a little bit fearful as far as having the large, like you were saying, the sexy team in office and stuff. What's that team look like for you guys right now at about 5 to 10 deals a month?
Gotcha. I know me personally, I'm completely virtual. I don't know if you figured it out by now. I like to take it easy. I'm not trying to stress myself out. I'm not trying to create another job. So if I can teach someone to be me in my position and them also make money as well, I'm not afraid to do that. So I know my virtual assistants, I have a lead manager. Well, I have first level VAs, which is cold callers, texters or whatnot, and then you have lead managers, which those are the guys who take those cold leads in. They call the lead, say, hey, are you serious about selling? More scripted than that, but we need to find out if they're serious about selling. Then that goes on to the acquisitions guy. The acquisitions guy goes through all the data that they've gotten from the seller and really find out what's going on, and we see if we can work a deal out together. And then that deal then comes to me to evaluate, and I say, hey, yeah, let's go ahead and get it under contract. Once we get it under contract, then we go to the transaction coordinator, which I have another VA for that, and they're the ones who make sure that the deal flows through with the title company and communicate together, and we're able to find a buyer as well. I have a dispo manager as well, which those kind of coexist. Transaction coordinator and dispo guy, they kind of works within the same. I don't know. I just feel like they can work together.
Yeah,
so yeah, I hope that answers your question.
No, it does. And then for you?
For me, I'm a little bit different than Tyler. I want to be around people like, I don't know, I just like to have an office culture. Like I always want to have that. So it's not necessary, but that's what I chose to do. So I have 2 admin assistants. One of them is full-time, one of them is part-time. And they essentially screw up everything. They're like the first line of contact to it, so that we can filter down what are actually leads. I'm good at acquisitions. I have an acquisitions person, but I kind of look at us as an acquisitions team because you don't want to try to step away from a business too fast. That's the fastest way to get your business to go down, is trying to leave it too soon. So I have one acquisitions person, but then I assist with acquisitions as well. And I have 3 VAs. So I don't have a transaction coordinator simply because I'm not a full-time in any of those roles. I can handle that, right? So it's not taking up too much of my time. The busy work is outsourced. The non-verbal work is outsourced to virtual assistants that are overseas. I got the 2 admin assistants. I cross-train them on different things to be able to handle different tasks. And I have 1 acquisitions manager, and I kind of just float. Yeah.
Do you have a specific criteria of what you'll buy, where you'll buy? Or do you have a variety for your investors?
Yeah, I mean, the easiest way to do it, especially if you're starting off, is find guys who are buyers and say, hey, where are you buying at? There's ways, if you get on YouTube, how to find hot zip codes. Type in on YouTube how to find hot zip codes. And if you do that, there's a guy on there, Max Maxwell, and a couple other guys who break down how to find hot zip codes within that area, meaning that's where all the flippers are doing their flips at. You understand? So secondly, I don't really touch anything if it's not on Zillow. So if someone tells me an address and I try, my last resort is looking at it on Zillow.
Can't find it.
Yeah, I can't find it.
Right.
More than likely no one's willing to risk their money to think that someone was willing to live there. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
And kind of like how Tyler said, just don't reinvent the wheel. You don't got to be the smartest person in the room. Somebody's already buying. Somebody's buying a property somewhere, right? So you can find that information out. Personally, I do deals in Memphis, Little Rock, and then Middle Tennessee. So I try to lean on what activity is happening in those markets, because I'm not going there all the time. Well, I'm not going to Little Rock at all. But I try to lean on the data that's in those markets to try to let me know. So I'm not really, I'm just not trying to be the smartest guy in the room. Like if I see 3 guys are buying over there and then 3 guys bought last month as well, obviously there's activity over there. Let's see if we can get in the middle of it.
Absolutely. Yeah. I will say too, when we were talking about the legal aspect, I talk to a lot of people all the time, realtors, even people that you would just, brokers. It's just like, it's so much legal stuff that goes on and where people are just scared. It scares them so much to take action. like I say, the same way I do, I'm scared as just as much as you guys, but I just talk to those who have more experience and then those who can guide me in the right direction. So like I say, always talk to an attorney before you make a move that you're not sure about.
So you mentioned the book Traction. Is this the right one by Gino Wickman?
Yes,
Okay.
Orange and Black,
Yeah,
Black and Orange.
get a
Yeah,
grip on your-
yeah. So any business you want to start, I promise you that book will get you there.
And he's got a sequel to that now.
Oh, he does?
Yeah, called Rocket Fuel.
Yep. Okay, yeah, I heard of that. Okay.
Y'all had mentioned going to the courthouse for finding tax delinquent
Mhm.
probate.
Mm-hmm.
How exactly what do you do there?
Great question, and I hate to answer it, to be honest with you, because I'm giving away my money. What market are you trying to be in? Okay, so I will tell you, I don't care. Like, God's blessed me so much, I'm not worried about it, right? But when you go to the courthouse or anywhere like that, you're asking for public data. They may be lazy and try to act like they don't want to get it for you, but literally you can Google a form that says public information sheet. And you can write on there exactly what you're looking for and give it to the clerk, and they have to find it legally. If not, then they could, get in trouble by their boss. But you just go there, whatever you're looking for, tax delinquent properties. You want to be specific what you're looking for. I want to know, I'll just give you this one gem. You want to go there, you want to write on the paper, I need all tax delinquent properties that are delinquent 2 years or more. You get what I'm saying? And then they'll fetch that data for you. You get it, skip trace it, call it. Those are highly motivated leads, right? Because more than likely they're about to lose their property.
Yeah, I've
And
heard
you-
about
go ahead.
like the probate.
Probate, same thing.
You can just go in and be like, all right, let's go through these files.
Yeah.
Always, no matter what you do, act like you're supposed to be doing it. Okay? So go in there, understand that information is public data. I don't know why, but legally it is, and they can't stop you from getting it. So, as long as you go in there understanding that and you show them that you know that, you'll be good.
And it depends on the county too. Like the county, during COVID, a lot of counties did switch to virtual. Some counties may ask you to sign up. Like in Memphis, when I used to do it in Memphis, I would have to go down there, ask for a book, take a picture. Cause you really sifting through data to find out who it is. So it's legwork and finding that sensitive type of stuff. But COVID kind of made it a lot easier because people couldn't go down there and get that information. Not even the attorneys, right, who need to have this information. So they had to make it readily available. So just research it from the county. It may be a little bit easy.
The reason why I said that's my money, right? Because like you said, it's a lot of legwork. Who's willing to do that? Everybody wants to go to a website and download a list. No one's willing to go through all that work, like you said, to get that list. But you'll be the first person to have it. One of the top 10. And you're one of the first people to cold call it. They haven't heard from a million different people because it's hot. It's a hot list. No one's touched it. A lot of times when they scrub the data, it's normally like passed down. But when you go get county data, you're typically top 10, the first people to get it.
What's your favorite vendor for skip tracing?
Batch. Yes, sir. They do SMS and they do skip tracing as well.
Is there a good way to find out who's the landlord that's dealing with evictions in Davidson County or
Eviction court? Yeah.
Okay. So, I took your course and it was saying about Section 8 properties.
Mhm.
So do you go to the courthouse for those too, or do you have to just contact them and see what you got to do to qualify?
Well, yes, you can go to the courthouse, or you can. I can't remember the number or the website, but are you talking about in order to find renters for the property, or the landlords?
If you find a property, like an investment property, and want to be the person that goes to Section 8 to rent it out through Section 8.
So,
can you call them?
yes, you can call them directly, but I will say, like Section 8, your house has to meet certain standards in order for it to qualify for someone to come and live there. I think it's a little bit more stricter than just a regular tenant. Yes, ma'am. Mm-hmm. Anybody else?
What'd you eat for dinner today?
Dave and Buster's is on you.
Do you guys prefer just for closings? Do you do double closings or just assigning, or how does?
I prefer assignments.
That's a great question. like I said, like I've been talking about, it just depends on your relationship. If somebody, you know, they may hate on you, they may get jealous of you if you got a 50K spread, and they may try to back out of the deal. So in something like that, I always double close anything 20,000 or more. Just depending if it's somebody that I know and they know that the reason why I say this is because sometimes buyers don't understand what it takes to do that. Sometimes, man, you're going through a lot even to get it to that point. And if you don't have that relationship built with them, then you always want to double close to protect the deal.
When you see a property that's an easy cleanup, do you get tempted to wholesale it sometimes, or do you always just assign?
Always tempted. I would just say look at the numbers and make sure it makes sense. I would say it would have to make me make double of what I would make as an assignment, because you can always run into any type of situation that could stop that sale. Did they cut the air off? They're trying to tell us to get up out of here.
There's been off all night, you know? Well, appreciate y'all guys coming out tonight. I guess probably got time for one more question, if anybody wants to ask one more question.
Bonus round.
One more question. I want to get everybody out of here by 8 o'clock, so I always advertise it to 8 o'clock. Well, if no more questions, give this guy a hand. Appreciate y'all coming out. And next month,